Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we dive into a crisis that has been quietly building for decades, ignored by leaders, underestimated by the world, and now exploding into reality with terrifying speed. Iran is a nation standing at the edge of a water collapse so severe that experts warn the taps may stop running for millions of people at any moment. This is not a future prediction. This is the story of what is happening right now and why the next few years could redefine the fate of an entire nation. Iran's water crisis is often described as a problem of mismanagement, but that word feels too small for what is unfolding. This is not simple mismanagement. This is a combination of overuse, reckless agricultural policies, collapsing rivers, dying lakes, shrinking aquifers, soaring temperatures, and decades of political denial. And all of these forces are now converging on one terrifying reality. Iran is running out of water faster than it can replace it. Cities that once thrived because of ancient waterways are now fighting over the last drops. Villages have been abandoned because wells have dried out. Farmers, who relied on centuries-old irrigation systems, now watch cracked land that can no longer sustain crops. Mothers walk miles in blistering heat to fill containers with murky water that barely counts as drinkable. And inside Tehran, a city of more than 10 million people, officials are quietly preparing for a scenario they once refused to even acknowledge: the possibility that taps across the capital could shut off. For decades, Iran built dams as symbols of progress and national pride. Politicians celebrated them as proof of development. But each dam altered river flows, trapped sediment, and starved the land downstream. Aquifers underneath the soil were drained faster than they could recharge, sinking entire regions as the ground hollowed out. 30 years ago, Iran had one of the richest water reserves in the region. Today, many basins stand at less than 10% of their original levels. And some experts say that nearly half of Iran's groundwater is now gone forever. The tragedy is that everyone saw this coming. Scientists warned that Iran's climate would grow hotter and drier. Environmental activists begged leaders to change course. But instead of reform, the government doubled down on outdated farming policies that consumed nearly 90% of the nation's water. Thirsty crops were planted in some of the driest areas of the country. Illegal wells exploded across rural regions. And climate change simply sped up the collapse. The hardest impact is visible in Tehran, where water demand is skyrocketing. The city once relied on snowmelt from the Alborz Mountains, but rising temperatures mean there is less snow each year, and what does fall melts too quickly. Reservoirs feeding the capital are now at dangerously low levels. Officials claim everything is under control, but leaked internal reports say otherwise. They warn of rolling water shutdowns, emergency rationing, and potential evacuation of districts if reservoirs fall below critical lines. Imagine a city of 10 million people without water, hospitals unable to function, schools forced to close, public transportation halted, streets filled with people searching for bottled water. This is the scenario officials fear most, and it may be closer than citizens realize. Iran's rural areas are already living in this future. In parts of Sistan Balochistan, families survive on water trucks that arrive only a few times a week. In Yazd, residents say pressure in pipes is so low that taps barely drip. In Isfahan, the iconic Zayende Rud River has dried so completely that people walk through its empty riverbed. And in Khuzestan, protests erupt every summer as heat waves turn the province into a furnace and water shortages reach breaking point. What makes Iran's crisis unique is that it is both natural and political. Yes, climate change is making the land hotter. Yes, droughts are more likely. But the real cause is decades of human choices that ignored the limits of nature. A country with one of the oldest water management traditions in the world, the ancient Qanat systems were engineering marvels, now struggles to provide clean drinking water to millions. The human toll of this crisis is immense. Families are forced to choose between using water to cook or to wash. Farmers watch their land turn to lifeless dust. Livestock die from dehydration. Children grow up never knowing what a flowing river looks like. And tensions between provinces grow as regions accuse each other of stealing water. Inside the government, fear is rising. Officials know that water scarcity has triggered revolutions in history. They know that when access to drinking water collapses, so does social stability. Some experts warn that Iran could face one of the largest internal migrations in modern times as people flee regions with no water left. The economic impact is equally devastating. Industries that depend on water are shutting down. The agricultural sector is shrinking. Dams are drying. Hydropower is weakening. And as water becomes scarce, its price increases, adding fuel to inflation already hurting millions of families. Yet despite all this, hope still exists, but only if massive changes are made immediately. Iran must reform its agricultural system, shut down illegal wells, invest in desalination, modernize irrigation, and protect what little groundwater is left. But the biggest challenge is political will. Without transparency and urgency, technical solutions will not be enough. The truth is simple. Iran is facing a countdown. The country is approaching a point where recovery will no longer be possible. Some lakes will never return. Some aquifers are permanently gone, and some regions will become unlivable in the coming decades. This is the hidden water collapse, a crisis the world barely talks about, but one that could reshape the Middle East. The people of Iran deserve better than this slow disaster. They deserve leadership that acknowledges the crisis, invests in solutions, and protects their right to water. They deserve a future where rivers flow again, where children do not grow up in drought, where taps do not run dry. If changes begin now, Iran may still avoid the worst outcome. But if leaders continue to deny the scale of the problem, then one day very soon, millions may wake up and discover that the taps have finally stopped. Not for hours, not for days, but perhaps forever. And that is why this story matters. Because water is not just a resource. It is life itself. And when a nation runs out of water, everything else collapses with it.